then not long after that, then Lundy's running off the field, gives one of the Kilcoo lads a dunt in the tunnel, and didn't look behind him because there were about 8 Kilcoo lads running in after this. Like, and I was just like, geez, that's very unlike Corofin. Like, but that kind of stuff is obviously in every team. We've seen Mayo doing it, we've seen Dublin doing it, we've seen Kerry doing it. Like, is this what winners do, Ger?
I'm not finished yet. It took me a long time to get here.
Both players have spoken with each other.
So there we have it, Conan and Ger. We have Corofin, the greatest club team of all time. Not the greatest club of all time, because Nemo still are that. They've 7 All-Irelands, Crossmaglen have 6. Corofin have 5, but they've 3 in a row. It's never been done, Ger.
Super achievements, unbelievable achievements, and fair play to them. They had to dig it out. A couple of their games this year, maybe outside of the All-Ireland semi-final against Nemo, but they had to dig it out, work hard, and in fairness, to keep that level of focus with a club team for 3 years in a row, it's unbelievable. And we know the GAA season, it's not 12 months, it's longer than 12 months as well. So.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and they're coming through Galway Championship, which they're nearly getting caught in the last 2 county finals. They went to replays. We know Connacht traditionally is a very difficult provincial championship. Mayo champions are always strong, so they're not breezing to any of this, you know, and they've beaten every team. They've destroyed Dr. Crokes, they've destroyed Nemo, they've destroyed Slough-Nail. They didn't destroy Kilcoo, because Kilcoo, we'll talk about that when we analyse the game.
Bet St. Vincent's well.
Whether you like it or not, they beat St. Vincent's in that semi-final. So they've beaten a who's who really of all the top clubs in the country.
Yeah, no, they certainly have. They've in 10, 15 years time, when these lads are sitting on the bar stools reflecting on the success and the achievements that they have earned, it is incredible. And I know we talk about Dublin the 5 in a row inter-county level, but to win 3 in a row at a club level, it's superb.
It is, because we know the very top players play inter-county, and you know it's the difference between amateur and professional, and inter-county players have that mentality, that professional kind of attitude and preparation. Club players generally don't have that, so to come back 3 in a row at a club level like that, you know, that is phenomenal, because by the nature of it, you've got a few lads on your club team that are like, we may get these lads up training, you know, you have to struggle sometimes to get them, you know, so that just shows kind of in that context how amazing an achievement this is.
No, it certainly is. And listen to Kevin O'Brien kind of talking after the game, he gave a fair bit of credit to previous mentors of the senior team, but also to the underage setup and the culture that they are trying to breed and instill in the up and coming players, where it is about playing for Corofin, playing for the parish, and to try to get onto a senior team and to win an All-Ireland is a goal and a hope that they do put in their younger players, and that's obviously paying dividend then at the top end. But again, how they're doing it year on year, it is incredible. Yeah,
it definitely is. Kevin O'Brien, their manager, Conan, said afterwards, I think the way we won that final is as sweet as any of the other victories that we've had over the last 2 years. And that's obviously true. When the final whistle goes in a game that you have to fight for, rather than the Dr. Crokes Nemo Rangers one, they were over in the second half and you can look up into the stand or whatever you do. But like, I mean, this turned toxic towards the end. Like, I mean, this... It probably started with Dylan Ward's second yellow, which both yellows for me weren't even yellows.
No, I agree. Like the first yellow, I think Conor Lane saw somebody go down. It was a Corofin player, Dylan
Wall got him both yellows.
Yeah. Like, so it was originally some Corofin player putting out his hand, and that hit Dylan Wall's face, and Wall went down, and Ward's hand happened to be on Wall at the same time, and Conor Lane came down and gave him a yellow card. The second one, I think I saw you tweeting saying about the player, like, Wall smaller. It was just a hard tackle.
Put his 2 hands out.
Yeah, it was a hard tackle.
At a normal level for a tall man like Wall. Or like Ward.
Well, we chatted about the tackle and how it's interpretive going into this game, and I'm going to slightly disagree with you, right, on a second yellow anyway. I didn't think it was a yellow, but based on how the referee is applying the rules, and Conor Lane was applying the rules, Dylan Ward had to be a bit more sensible going in, and because he went in at such pace, you're just not getting away with those type of collisions anymore in Gaelic games. And I know it's an All-Ireland final, and second half his balls is thrown in.
He did just have his hands out to either side, which is pretty much what you're kind of told to do, you know, like it was.
He kind of, the other Dylan Wall.
As difficult, these 2 names, like what are the chances?
There's only enough room for one Dylan on the field. But he kind of caught him in the top of the shoulder, as you say, Willie, and the hand came in, the hand just slid up. and caught him. It's a very soft yellow. I can see why Conor Lane gave the yellow.
Yeah.
It's a very soft yellow, but in an All-Ireland bloody final on 34 minutes, you don't give that yellow.
No,
don't
you
you
don't.
not? You can't give that yellow. The chap's crying up in the stand. And the first one, Dylan Wall sold him up the river. He put a hand on his chest and he fell down.
Yeah.
Now that's not good enough in an All-Ireland final. And one I would plead with the analysts on TV this year, please highlight these dives, because this is creeping in. You can't tackle anyone above the stomach anymore, or they're going down, and they're trying to get the opposition teammates yellow card or red card. And I don't want to go too hard on Dylan Wall, because they're all at it. They're all at it. We talk about it. Start highlighting this and start shaming the lads that are doing it.
Well, Corofin adopted the dark arts very well, and that probably ties in with Kevin O'Brien's comments, Woody, that you read out.
Yeah.
In it being a sweet victory, playing somewhat unorthodox for Corofin, and that they were happy to keep possession, go left and right, and kind of probe and prod and see what happens. But they were happy enough to be sneaky as well and to be clever and try to con the ref. In the same way, a lot of the northern teams, that's a part of their game too. They go in, put the head in, try to bring about a foul. The shoe is on the other foot on this occasion, but do you still feel bad for Dylan Moore being put off an All-Ireland final? Of course you do.
Yeah.
But he, as a player, has to unfortunately take responsibility for the inadequacies of a referee, which again, they do make errors. And Conor Lane, I've seen him play ref Sigerson finals again with UCD. He's had a few club finals and All-Ireland finals as well, and I don't know how he gets these games. Yeah,
I don't know how he he didn't look like he was one of the top referees. It was almost like a referee on his way up, and he lost a bit of control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He got that impression from him.
He has this really annoying habit as well of taking his sweet time over every decision. I think he thinks it makes it seem like he's in control, and especially in injury time at the very end, it's like, hurry the hell up! Like, you know, he's just walking down and like, we'll do this in my terms.
What did he bring the free up for? So Dara Silk gets it. Corofin were I think they were letting themselves down a bit at this stage. Now they were going for the 3 in a row. Michael Farragher could have got a straight red. I think he got a second yellow, but that was a dirty punch, and it wasn't a punch in the face, but it was a good punch into the stomach or wherever he gave it. Then Dara Silk blatantly drags his man down, and I hate seeing that. I don't care. You can be a little bit cleverer about it than just grabbing his jersey and pull. Anyways, then that was outside the 45. Then suddenly, I don't know that we see enough of this on TV, because I rewinded it and people on Twitter were telling me someone kicked the ball away. I didn't see that. And the next minute, I think it's Conor Laverty has it in his hands, and Liam all of a sudden, as Dara Silk walking off. Now, unless Dara Silk said something, Liam just gets this shock and it suddenly runs the ball up maybe 20 metres. Now the ball's gone from well outside the 45 to the top of the D. It's a tap over free.
No, like I did see someone like knock the ball. They punched it out of a Kilcoo player's hand.
That must have been a good bit earlier, was it? Like,
no, it was after the foul, and how was it, Darrell Brannigan? I think he got up and then like someone just punched the ball away and it went down the pitch a little bit. So I could see why he moves it forward. Now it was 55. It was exactly 55 metres out the foul, because it was between the 45 and 65. But then, as you say, it was hit from the D, so it was like at least 20 metres taken forward.
I don't know what it was. Like,
he brought it forward 13, but by the time it's taken.
Now, most people watching the game would have been willing Kilcoo on at that stage. They were a man down. Corofin were playing terribly, and Kilcoo, to be fair, looked like they were the ones that were going to try and go on and win it. So, like, I mean, and they got 10 minutes of extra time, Ger. Just, we won't get into analysing it yet. 10 minutes instead of 5. Lane did everything he could for them.
Maybe he was making up for the second yellow, was he? The sending off.
Maybe, maybe.
Super free from Paul Devlin. In fairness, he showed great leadership. Kicked a couple of great frees during that game.
But had missed a really easy one not long before that one, so there was a lot of pressure. Even though it was a simple free, like at that level for your club free taker, top of the D, you have to be tapping it over. I was nervous because of the one he had missed just before that. Yeah, and
again, just kind of noting it down, Conor Laverty, Darrell Brannigan and then Paul Devlin, they were the last 3 points in normal time for Kilcoo to get it back, to get it to extra time, but they missed 2 or 3 chances as well. Laverty missed one and Devlin missed as well. I don't know, there was one other opportunity.
Eugene Brannigan missed one.
Eugene Brannigan as well.
Was that the block from Sice though?
Oh, that was another one. That was a brilliant block. Yeah.
So that was 4 other opportunities in the last 20 minutes, so to speak, that they including the 10 minutes of extra time. Yeah,
Kilcoo kicked it away, you would say that. Before we get into that, lads, I want to talk about the Corofin dark arts, because we mentioned Dara Silk black card, we mentioned Michael Farragher getting sending off. Then Micheál Lundy was up to all sorts, so he was holding on to Eugene Brannigan by the jersey. The other player I saw doing this before was Diarmuid Connolly, who was doing it. I think he had 2 Carlow players, one, or he had 2 Mayo players in Croke Park, one with each jersey, and they were boxing his arm and they couldn't get stop him. I was just like, what would you do in that situation? He has a great tight grip, you can't get him off you. So Conor Gilligan goes running in, obviously, to try and get Lundy off this young fella, and Lundy goes holding him. Now Lundy's holding the 2 of these lads, and it just looked terrible. And then not long after that, then Lundy's running off the field, gives one of the Kilcoo lads a dunt in the tunnel, and didn't look behind him because there's about 8 Kilcoo lads running in after his. And I was just like, geez, that's very unlike Corofin. But that kind of stuff is obviously in every team. We've seen Mayo doing it, we've seen Dublin doing it, we've seen Kerry doing it. Is this what winners do, Ger?
It's a case of you do what you have to do to win sometimes. The morality behind it, if you want to get philosophical, is kind of questionable and debatable, but I suppose in Corofin's heads, and again, huge what would you call it, reward at stake, 3 in a row, All-Ireland champions. They're going to do whatever needs to be done. The bit of nerves that creep in then again towards the end of the game. There's a great scene where at the end of normal time, where the Kilcoo guys are running in. I think it's an official from Croke Park steps out on the camera, and he's standing in the middle of the tunnel trying to slow the Kilcoo lads sprinting in, but they all just went around. There was a bit of messing of it.
But then I think the Corofin boy jumping over the rails.
He went over the top ropes in the wrestling.
It was amazing landing, because by the time he landed, he'd run.
But I was expecting Lundy to come out at extra time with his face all burst open, because he was stranded. That's very, very, very dangerous. And usually one team stands aside now and lets the other team in. But the end of that game turned toxic, let's be honest, and both teams were at it. Now we know we'd be a little bit harder on Corofin because they were more obvious, but there was a lot of trash talking and there was a lot of messing going on in the field, and for 2 teams who've never played each other before, it looked like they hated each other. Now going in off the pitch at that stage, Lundy was the one clearly on the camera that was at fault. He gave him a dunt. Now he was followed by 5 lads. How did he not get burst down there? Maybe they had a good corner man, a good cut man inside the dressing room.
He was the right man to jump in.
He was the right man to help him out.
Yeah, maybe there was so many people in there that it was hard to get a good swing in. Well, I don't know. But he obviously got away with it.
He got away, but when that extra time started then, and then you're coming out for the extra time, it felt like a local club match where the 2 teams hated each other, and you were thinking, Jesus, this could all kick off, didn't it? For 2 teams that never would have no rivalry together.
Yeah, and this happened at halftime as well. At the very first halftime, it was a 3-2 to Kilcoo at halftime, and the Kilcoo boys were laughing in their faces as they were going in, and there was a bit of after.
There was a lot of that going on, getting in their faces and stuff, and maybe Corofin lost their discipline because of that.
They looked really rattled, and then the fact that they were 3 points up and then blew that, and as you said, Kilcoo should have won by full time, and then that fight as well. You're right, when they came back out, you thought anything could happen here, and I can see why Kevin O'Brien is then saying this was a sweeter one, because it's more when you beat your rivals and it's a tough fighting game like that.
In the end, that bit of a mill at the end of normal time seemed to take the zap a lot of energy out of Kilcoo guys, because obviously when the ball threw up for the first period of extra time, game was over after couple of minutes, it was
completely over, and that was the hard part to understand. Now I was very critical of Kilcoo, not how to set up. They're perfectly right to set up like that, but they should have won that game in normal time by throwing caution to the wind and just going at Corofin, and Corofin were so off form. They were there for the taking. Now Conor Laverty kicked in a terrible wide. He'll have nightmares about that. I did it myself in a final, and I still think about into the goalie's hands, and I'll never forgive myself for it. Like we said, Brannigan did it and Devlin did it. They were by far the better team, and the only team that looked like they were going to win, only they couldn't get the ball over the bar. Now in the first period of extra time, what did they do? They reverted back to dropping off Corofin and allowing them have the ball, and Corofin used their experience and were outstanding with it, you'd have to say, in extra time. I was just like Kilcoo, if they started this extra time with the same kind of tactics, where they'd abandoned all kind of tactics. They were just blindly trying to hunt them down and get back into this game.
There was a notable change in Kilcoo's setup. 55 minutes in normal time, and they were a point or 2 down, chasing the game, and you can see Niall McAvoy, who was playing sweeper for most of the 50 odd minutes before that, he ends up stepping up onto a Corofin man and was man for man And like you said, they
Yeah.
began to engage Corofin.
Because Corofin were taking the piss out of them there for a little period in the second half, weren't they?
They were, and it was only when Kilcoo stepped up and put pressure on them, and they had the fitness to stay with them, they began to force Corofin into errors, and obviously they created a couple of opportunities. Well, we're counting maybe 7 in total, including the Gary Size block. They took 3 of them in the latter stages of normal time, but they obviously made a decision then in the dressing room that we'll go back to.
That's what lost them the game, whether you like it or not. What would you do there, Ger? Like, you have the momentum. The team that draws the game usually, carries on. The other team's deflated. Why go back to standing off them? It's given back the impetus back to Corofin.
It's a tough one. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The manager obviously has to make a call based on his intuition, maybe, and he says, right, we'll go back to how we were setting up at the start of a normal period. Now, something we did mention in the first half. Corofin had 2 great goal chances that were saved by Martin McCourt. I think if those chances had gone in, potentially the game could have been up.
Would have been different,
but would have been up. But again, Kilcoo, they stood back first period normal time. Michael Lundy throws was it a shot? Was a pass? I'm not sure, but a bit of luck for Corofin, and Kieran Cunningham puts.
Oh no, it came off the post. That came back, yeah. And there was no idea of a foul. It was a perfectly legitimate goal.
But isn't it
Conor Cunningham? Sorry,
yeah, but like the idea that it didn't go for it in extra time is weird, because usually the first half of extra time decides extra time. Whoever wins that usually goes on and wins, and they normally win by 3 points by half time of extra time. So you really should be going all out in that period, because if you're going in, they were 7 points down, but if you're getting 3 points down with 10 minutes left, normally you're beaten. Yeah,
and especially next time. But one thing stood out for me in the extra time is, number one, they went back camping, and now Corofin were playing on the outside of them, where in the last 10 minutes they couldn't do that. Corofin were panicked on the ball, and I think it was McAvoy ran up the field. They got a breakaway in the first period of extra time, and there was nobody up with him, and he ended up trying to give a diagonal ball and kicked it over the end line. Corofin come out, didn't do anything majorly fast, took the free kick, took the kick out, and it was conceded. As Kilcoo were up there waiting for him, it's like, lads, that's not what got you here. Like the one thing, as that was very disappointing from a Kilcoo. And I think when you look at it, you've just drawn with Corofin. You've 20 minutes for this. Do what worked. You know, I understand that you'll say this is hindsight, but I remember shouting at the television, Kilcoo, you're not gone back to what, giving them possession.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is it worked for the first 30 minutes. They were 3-2 up, and they were thinking, we've got 15 men again at extra time. We'll go back to that.
I can see probably how they justified it in the dressing room.
You can see how they justified, but Colin, you made a fair point there. When 60 minutes are up, guys are tired, you're fatigued, right? If you decide then in the dressing room, we're going to play our defensive with our system with our sweepers, all of a sudden you know that as a defender I have an extra couple of guys around me, so I can relax a tiny bit, as opposed to we're going to play a high press game, push up on your man. You're actually mentally engaged straight away. It's a one-on-one, so to speak, situation with maybe a bit of cover on the far side, and like you say, buddy, hindsight is foresight, but that was the call they made. Would they have done it differently? I don't know, but at the same time, a fair bit of luck for Corofin to get the goal too. A bit
of luck, yeah, definitely luck off that. But how many goals come off a ball dropping short or off the post? You have to be alive to that. And maybe Brannigan should have been a bit stronger, or maybe tap it back to his goalkeeper, or something like that. But at the same time, Corofin were excellent in that first half. They were doing what they didn't do the whole game. They were supporting the man on the ball. They were getting through Kilcoo, and for the first 60 minutes, lads, Corofin were as poor as you ever see, because this isn't the first time they faced a very defensive team. Kilcoo did exactly what they should have done. Kevin O'Brien said, the Corofin manager, he said, in the other finals we went out and we were let play football. That was the way the other team set up. Today was probably a bit more defensive. It was hard to get scores out there. Kilcoo were very well drilled and set up, and they tried to hit you on the break. We know that, and let's be honest, Dr. Crokes would never play like that. Nemo would never play like that. They're very traditional, teams. Their supporters wouldn't really appreciate that. I'm sure Kilcoo set up the way they should have set up. They were right, and they did frustrate Corofin. Why go out and try and do what other teams couldn't do and get hammered? I had no problem with that. But still, Corofin have faced this before. It's not the first time. Corofin were just off form. They look lethargic. They looked like maybe all they thought they could do was show up. Their passes were going astray. They weren't breaking lines. They weren't supporting the man the ball. They were very, very poor, Corofin.
Yeah, like two of the teams who've had the best success against Corofin over the last few years have been Mount Bellew, Moyloch and Tuam Stars, and so we can see exactly why Kilcoo thought, we'll do what they were doing. But if there was ever a day to catch Corofin, and this is why I do agree that
they were there.
could have been braver. Like especially like it even showed you what 7 minutes to go. Like if all that extra time that was played, Kilcoo had all the ball. They had all the chances. Yeah. If they had been a bit braver and did that for an extra 5 minutes, they would have had a few more chances.
Yeah. And that high press that Kilcoo employed in the last period of normal time, the last 10-15 minutes, worked quite well for them and kind of caught Corofin out. They weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
So maybe they should have done what wasn't expected, whereas Corofin were probably expecting to sit back again.
Exactly. There's a great desperation about that, lads, when you're trying to get back in it. Like Dublin against Kerry in those last 12 minutes, when their 5 in a row looked like it was gone, and it just Cluxton comes out, marks a man, and everyone else just get that ball back. You know what I mean? There was an element of Kilcoo just and then that kind of savage work rate puts kind of serious pressure on Corofin. They were like, whoa, we can't even get the ball out of our own half.
Yeah, because when you're the team is chasing, everybody will show for the ball and they'll all try to do something, but when you're hanging on to a 1 point lead, you don't want to make the mistake. So then suddenly there are less options on the ball, and when you've got everybody in Kilcoo pushing up trying to get the ball back, it's harder to keep hold.
Yeah, no, Corofin went 22 minutes at the end of normal time without scoring. They went 7-4 up and then went out of the game. Out of it. And Kilcoo had 14 men. Now, with Kilcoo's tactics, I don't know does sending off have a huge bearing on the game. It's not like if it's man on man and there's clearly a spare man. When you're playing a very defensive system, a man going off the pitch isn't, I don't know, does it have the same kind of impact on the game?
Well, Corofin basically went to having a +1 at the back to when Dylan Moore was put off to having kind of nearly +2 at the back. So they were set up for the counter attack if they were turned over, but they obviously decided they were going to be extremely patient regardless of what the score was. It was going to be a soccer score as well. Reading a report afterwards, just a statistic from the game, Corofin scored 1-4 in the first period of extra time, and they scored 7 points
in the whole thing,
70 odd minutes, which is
it's incredible.
Incredible.
Ian Burke not in the game, Martin Farragher not in the game, Micheál Lundy running around but not really. He's tracking one of the Brannigan, Daryl Brannigan sometimes. Syce was tracking him other times. He wasn't in it. Mike Farragher wasn't in it. Gary Syce didn't score from play. I don't think he even had a shot from play. Jason Leonard got 1 point from play. That's the Corofin incredible forward line that we rave about. Isn't that unreal? Like, I mean, if Kilcoo, imagine you tell Kilcoo on Saturday, Corofin will score 7. Only one of their forwards will score 1 point from play. Kilcoo would be saying we're All Ireland champions here.
You still have to, right, looking at the scores from both sides, right, Kilcoo only had 3 scores in total and Corofin had 8 different scores.
Yeah, 3 of Corofin's backs scored.
Yeah, which is great. You've what Carl Syce, Liam Silk, who's popped up a few times, Dylan Wall too. Roland Steele, who we haven't really mentioned too much.
We'll mention him in performance of the weekend.
Okay, fair enough.
No.
He had a super game, but Kilcoo, you still need a couple of guys kind of popping up and taking a couple of scores. Ryan Johnson had a very, very quiet game for Kilcoo.
He was very poor, taken off. And to be honest, as Jerome was desperate as well. Like I've been critical of Jerome before. I don't see a county player in him, lads.
Jerome had a couple of shots where I was thinking, is that really on? Like, it would be a sensational score. This is twice. Like, if you got it over and both times pulled it, didn't have the legs. Like, it was just, come on.
That's not a county player at that level. It's just not, and not a county player that trades off being able to score.
And decision making then as well is what separates a lot of good club players from decent county players too. And he showed a lack of good decision making in those situations you described, Conan, too. Yeah,
so it's hard to know. It was an look, considering the last 2 finals, which were terrible, it wasn't. I saw a lot of people giving out. You know, the hurling snobs will always say, "With Damien Hayes on next, how could you watch this after watching the last match?" You know, etc. But still, Jesus, no one was turning it off towards the end either. At the same time, so like, I mean, I don't know. I prefer Kilcoo to have gone out and made a game of it like that than Dr. Croak's folding. You know.
Well, with Damien Hayes, well, you make sure you correct him. They're 2 different sports, right? Hurling, you got to compare a hurling game to a hurling game.
True.
It's like comparing
and Damien,
rugby.
In fairness to Damien, that I mean, he didn't say this. He's just he's going to come on, maybe representing these people.
But it's intense because it was quite tactical. Wooly, you could see how both teams were setting up, certainly in the first 2 periods of normal time. Both teams were nearly trying not to make a mistake. At the same time, I would argue if Micheál Lundy or Martin Farragher's goals went in the first half, which were great opportunities, they attacked the flanks of Kilcoo. I would question whether the game would have gone to extra time, but then again,
Kilcoo kicked a few wides as well, but that was a quality thing too. Like, I mean, there's another Johnston, the little corner forward, Ryan Johnston. He had a bad wide or two in the first half, but he's a club player. I'd be more like, he's got a good bit of pace about him, to be fair. The free count. This was an incredible stat. At the end of normal time, the free count was 23 fouls for Corofin, 11 fouls for Kilcoo.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
And you would probably expect it to be the other way.
You would have,
the Northern teams set up.
So either Kilcoo just completely got under their skin, didn't
careful there.
Corofin did to Kilcoo what Kilcoo had probably done to a lot of teams, that they were very content in adapting and evolving their style of football to play so as not to play to the strengths of Kilcoo. And what are the strengths of Kilcoo? Force the ball carrier into the contact in the middle of the pitch, turn them over, and off we go. But Corofin, they took their sweet ass time, but they weren't bothered by the clock, so to speak.
Yeah, I think in fairness to Corofin with that stat, is it easier to be fouling when Kilcoo are running the ball? They didn't even have Conor Lafferty up top, so they're running all the time, so there's more tackles being put in, whereas Corofin will try and kick it a bit more and give Kilcoo less opportunities. Maybe
there was something, maybe there was a little bit in that. There's a tendency to foul someone who's breaking with the ball rather than someone who's just playing around outside you.
I was going to, maybe you can remember yourselves, but wherever most of those fouls been made by Corofin, I wonder, and you've probably been said in the dressing room, when does the referee book the forward? Very rarely. He'd book the back a bit quicker. So I must look back on it, but maybe a lot of the fouls from Corofin were in Kilcoo's half to allow their players slow the play down and allow their own players to filter back. But it was certainly strategic. They definitely would have talked about it, I would assume. Yeah,
they definitely would. So performance of the weekend, lads. It's hard to find anyone that can even compete with Ronan Steed. Like, I mean, this was an incredible performance by him, and this is a fella who doesn't play for Galway at all. This is a fella who went out and played semi-professional with a club out in Australia after being spotted playing with Corofin. Right, went out there and played. I think he played under 16 with Galway. Hasn't played anything else with Galway. For me, Galway's best midfield partnership is Dottie Burke and Ronan Steed. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, when you think about the 3 points this lad kicked, like, this is fairy tale stuff, and this is when no one else is performing. He's the only one that stood up, and that's in the first half when they're under immense pressure. The start of the second half when it's like someone lay down a marker here quick, scores another screamer. Now these are screamer points. These are boomers. And then sets the tone then in extra time with another bloody screamer. This is an incredible performance by this fella, and this isn't just an isolated brilliant game. This is a club player who consistently performs for Corofin.
Yeah, a super player. Again, you've probably said it all there, Woody. The quality of his points, his striking of the ball. He's just a lovely, skillful footballer. He plays hard, he works hard, and when the opportunities were there, he was happy to take them. I'm not sure which was maybe his second point. He was just came inside, kicking into the canal end. He just came inside the 45-yard line, kicking over a would-be blocker. That was an outrageous point in as well. The first one was at 22 minutes maybe, or 25 minutes. On the instep of the right foot as well, but he just had an all-round super performance. Maybe the lads will have to look at him, Paul Joyce and John Dibley.
He'd have to. He's 28 now.
Still young.
He's still young.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how is this lad? Maybe he's just no interest in playing county. We need to find out why he hasn't. Because, like, surely to God, this fella, and it's a position on the field where Galway, like, they have Flynn and O'Corrine, and these lads can be muscled out of it. Steed doesn't get muscled out. Now we know Dottie Burke will only play hurling, but, like, I mean, you would be delighted if you had the two of them at senior inter-county level.
Yeah, he'd definitely be camping outside his door now, like, just to try and get him on board. And it looked like he was playing in a different day than everybody else. Like, the weather when he was kicking the ball didn't look the same. It looked like he wasn't part of that team because everybody was having a shocking performance, and then he just come up from 45 yards.
He was the only one playing like Corofin.
Yeah,
and the other 14 were playing like some other club that has never won an All Ireland. Like, I mean, it's such a weird one. But, like, I mean, when you look at it, just to finish up here, lads, some people will complain about not enough Corofin lads being on the Galway team. Who gets on that Galway team? Who walks onto that Galway team? Ian Burke needs to improve his form big time. We know he's an all-star. He will be on it if he is in the right form. But when you've got Shane Walsh and you've Damien Comer in a full forward line, or in a forward line, Galway have got so many options. Like, does Martin Farragher get on it? You know, on the evidence, like obviously on the evidence yesterday, no, Daithí Burke was gone with the hurlers. Like, who off their defence gets onto it? Kieran Malloy get on it? You know, you've got Brannigan and you've got
Liam Silk in there as well.
You've got Liam Silk. I think Liam Silk and Ian Burke are the only two guarantees.
I would go. I know I'm a big Malloy fan, but I would definitely go him as well. Like,
Kieran Malloy is a number 5
yesterday, but like, just we've seen him be so dominant. Like,
yeah,
he's been their like standout guy, I think, for 3 years. So I think he definitely has to be accommodated, and I think like Brannigan can move up to half forward. It'd be Malloy and McDade, I think, would be a serious wing back option.
It's probably in attack the last couple of years where Galway have probably fallen off a bit. They've become quite defensive themselves.
Yeah, they played Brannigan and Heaney as the two working wing forwards. Now they've Micheál Daly at centre forward, who's a big rangy fellow who can kick long range scores. They're stacked up front.
Yeah,
but I think Pádraig Joyce is probably going to play more forwards up front than actually working players, and maybe not drop as many back. I'm just thinking who else would get out. Maybe those 3 then. You're looking at Kieran Malloy, you're looking at Ian Burke, and you're looking at Ronan Steed making a good case. Do you think for Galway, Ger, that they need to be backboned by 4 or 5 of these lads who are proven winners? Do you know what I mean? Or do you think there is a value to that, right?
There's an absolute value to it, provided that the club players want to actually play for Galway and they're willing to put into the Galway setup what they've obviously put into the club. And again, none of us are from Galway, but you do hear murmurings that the guys in Corofin are more interested in playing for the club than playing for the senior inter-county team. But again, success breeds success, good habits, good standards, guys being comfortable in playing in big games and winning big games, and that can only be good for an inter-county panel.
Yeah.
Does it always transfer in? Doesn't always transfer in. I know again with St. Vincent's we had a good run, but there's only myself and Dermot were the only ones starting on the team for a good while, but maybe 3 or 4 of the fellas in the panel, but it doesn't always transfer over. The inter-county setup is another level again, but all the guys you mentioned there, certainly Rowan Steed, like he surely has to be given a chance in there to see what he's about at that level, you know.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's they often say that in Laois. Anytime Laois have been strong, they've had 4 or 5 Portlaoise lads on it, you know, and like no other club in Laois is winning county titles or winning anything. So they don't know how to win anything. If you're being honest, without being too harsh, like, I mean, there's only one thing you can win in Laois, and that's the county title, and Portlaoise have won the last 13, so there's no, or Stradbally have won 1 in the meantime. Portlaoise have won 13 of 14 or whatever it is. So outside of a few Stradbally players, there's no player in Laois knows anything about winning. Maybe outside of a Sigerson Cup or whatever. I know Gary Walsh is going well with UCD at the moment. Do you take my point though? Like, I mean, the final whistle blown and you're used to winning, the last 5 minutes for you think you're going to win if you're used to it. If you don't ever win anything, the last 5 minutes you think, are we going to throw this away?
It's certainly the mental side of things, whether some of these fellas have what it takes maybe physically and technically to become or step up to senior into county at certainly the All-Ireland stages of a season. But mentally, you know, the thought process in many ways is the same, preparing for games, dealing with the last 10 minutes, whether we're up or whether we're down, whether we're chasing the game, and to be able to draw on that experience and successful experience that Corofin have had, that'll only add value to senior to county setup. But again, it's about these guys wanting to add value to the Galway setup, wanting to improve their standings in the league table, so to speak, and push on, because they do have a great tradition of football in Galway, and it's just, you know, Mayo have been kind of muscling in Connacht for the last number of years. I know not so much the last couple of seasons, but they've been the team to beat. But Galway haven't played as well as they can, and they are football in county, and I'm sure Pádraig Joyce would like to play a style of football that Corofin have employed, but in the county level again it can be a bit more technical and tactical too. But you can be sure they'll face a lot of Kilcue type setups, you know. The
Corofin fellas, in fairness, have every chance to make the Galway team now. The club's over before the county. I watched that yesterday, lads. I didn't once think of St. Patrick's Day. Did you? Would you be traditionalist? I didn't think it lost anything. It's still a great Sunday of All-Ireland club finals, and now it's not mixed in the middle of the if it was on St. Patrick's Day, we'd be doing a show and it would have mostly inter-county league, and you do a little bit on the club then. Do you know what I mean? Now you're doing a full show on the club finals, and now we're done. Inter-county starts now, isn't it? Like, there's no argument for me
I don't think so. Like, the only thing is you're playing a final in January, which is
But Croke Park,
yeah.
sure, it's perfect.
And
you know.
there was 8,000 more people there than there was last year.
Was there?
Yeah, it was 25,000 at the game. I think it was 17 last year. So
They're all in at the parade, really. Or?
You know, well, people are free now in
Yeah.
January. There's a slot in the calendar.
Yeah.
Here's the All-Ireland final. It's not like St. Paddy's Day when you can be doing any number of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are probably hungry for football and hurling too,
Exactly.
aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
After Christmas.
No,
and, like,
that's it.
and last year was like the sort of titans. It was Crooks and Corofin. It was like, this is the one everybody wanted to see.
It was. That was
more
the big
people.
glamour final, yeah.
More people wanted to go see a northern team.
Yeah.
And they won't go again if there's a one in it, because it was 7-7 after normal time. Right, lads, we'll leave it there. So it's Ronan Steed's performance of the weekend. I don't think anyone even was in the shake-up with him. I can't think of anyone who stood out.
Gary
necessarily.
Seiss stood up. Like, you know,
Yeah, did well, a great
big names,
lockdown, but
yeah.
you know, he's usually a lot more influential than that, you know.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, Ronan Steed, you're the only nomination and you're the only winner. Right, we'll come back and we'll take a look at the hurling final next. So Ballyhale Shamrocks, we talked about Corofin being the greatest club team in football, Damien Hayes. Ballyhale are without doubt the greatest hurling club. They've now won 8 All-Ireland titles, which is more in any code. Nemo Rangers have 7 in football. They have 8 All-Ireland hurling titles out of 9 finals. They've only lost 1 final, Damien. This is unbelievable stuff.
It really is, Colin. It's phenomenal, you know, and they've a fair belt of talent. You know, this team is after winning 2 All-Irelands back-to-back, and this is a new team, to be fair, you know, compared to a few years ago. There's an awful lot of younger players, so Henry Shefflin has come in there and he's completely revitalised the whole setup, and he must have known that there was huge talent in the group as well when he took over the charges. So and then he's got the older guys, the Finleys and TJ as well, you know, throwing their weight around there and putting in massive shifts. So it's unbelievable. They've won 8 Club All-Ireland, a small little club with huge tradition, and fair play to them and congratulations. Another great win for them, and it was their first time to do back-to-back, which was huge.
Well, that's the thing. So there were huge rivals of years 10 years ago. They stopped G doing 3 in a row back then, and like you said, they won 2 under-21s 2 or 3 years ago, and I suppose that's where the Evan Shefflins and the Owen Codys and Adrian Mullins, the couple of Mullins, that's where these lads came in and gave them a completely new impetus.
Exactly, and they're after refreshing the whole thing up. And even before the match, Henry was talking about, you know, lads getting their chance this year that weren't on the team last year to freshen the whole setup up. You know, but it's like this: your whole base, you know, your future comes from your juveniles, and they've had huge success in juveniles. And he said they had the minors and under 21 wins, so they had, and they're after refreshing. And as I said, Henry took over. He knew there was something in that batch of players they did, and they're after doing 2 in a row. And it's that group of players they're after doing 2 in a row, which is the first time in their history of doing it. And only to say that they lost 1 final is unbelievable. So look at, and actually it's gas. Club hurling in Kilkenny is very strong there at the moment. Now senior champions and intermediate champions. So you know it's looking good for Kilkenny as well this year. You know?
And junior champions as well. They did a full clean sweep.
You're right. I actually forgot that. You're right. So they have no excuses this year. None at all.
Well, we were talking about this actually, Damien. I wonder what your thoughts on it are. It's not really fair with Kilkenny because they've only 12 senior teams. So their 13th team, which is Tullaroan, would not be playing the 13th team in Galway, for example, is a senior team. Do you know what I mean? So they're actually at an advantage because they have so many not at senior level. They have an advantage at intermediate and junior. The way it knocks down because they've only 12 senior clubs.
Yeah, they've 12 senior clubs, but there'll be 12 fairly good clubs. But as you said, yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. That we'll say their 13th team is an intermediate team that won the county championship. Yeah. Where I think in Galway,
how many senior teams do you have?
I think it's don't hold me to this, but I think it's 12 senior A and 12 senior B, and the 12 teams that are in senior B can still win the county championship.
I get you.
And they're. And the same then for intermediate, and then there's junior A, all usual, you know. But so there's long story short, there's basically 24 senior teams.
24. So the 13th team in Kilkenny would be playing the 25th team in Galway in the intermediate championship. Yeah.
Correct.
So
correct. Yeah, which means that the intermediate hurling would be very strong then as well down in Kilkenny. But Galway have a senior A and a senior B, and a senior team in senior B can go on and win the county championship. They come in as a preliminary round. But yeah, there's 24 senior teams in in Gort. It was like we fought relegation last year for Tumla, so we did it against Gort. And the media were making it out to be a huge thing that we were in a relegation battle. But like, if we got beaten, we'd have just went into Senior B, which sometimes can be an advantage column.
Right.
Where we beat Gort last year by a point, and it could have went anyway, right? But Gort are in Senior B this year, but could go on and win the county championship this year, or could even have a bigger advantage where they won't have to play so many, of the bigger club teams in the first or second round.
I get you. That makes sense. What do you think Henry's going to do? He'll hang around probably and try and win 3 in a row. I just cannot picture Henry Shefflin. Brian Cody doesn't look like he's going anywhere. I can't picture Henry Shefflin on the sideline managing another county outside of Kilkenny or being with Ballyhale. Can you?
I can't. No, I'm in the same boat as you. Henry probably will stay around. See, the big advantage is with the club scene column is like Henry can become state manager of Ballyhale, right? And he can still do his gigs with the Sunday game and all that because the whole summer is free.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating part with the whole club system. And we're not going to go all over, but like you have 3 or 4 or 5 months doing nothing. So there's a huge break in the middle. But my own opinion is that Henry will become the take over from Brian Cody when Brian is ready to hand it over. And I think everyone is kind of saying this. Henry will become the new Kilkenny manager when Brian is ready to step away. But I hope he doesn't, for Brian's own sake as well. I hope he doesn't stay too long.
Yeah. Well, Henry's there in the waiting. Henry Jesus, sure, we know what he was like as a player, a phenomenal record, and he just took over.
A legend.
He's
a legend.
And he's 2 Club All-Irelands in 2 years. Like, I mean, the Ballyhale, for all their All-Irelands, they never retained it. They've retained it now.
Yeah, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it easy way either. They did a tough semi-final and Boris Lee getting lost of it as well yesterday. So they did, but I think Henry will be odds-on hot favourite to become the next Kilkenny manager. But as I said, I just hope the likes of Brian Cody doesn't overstay his welcome, if that makes sense. I hope lads know what I mean by that.
Yeah, no, I think you're saying that respectfully enough. Henry's brother Tommy has taken over the Kilkenny Camogie team now, so whether that does anything for Henry's decision to stay on, I still don't think it will. I think Tommy was doing the physical work with them. He's got managerial experience. He was with Carrick Shock. Michael Fenley is kind of talking about finishing up. He says, I'm suffering a bit with my grinds and my hips. Over the last few weeks, I've realised this is a young man's game, and I'm only I'm 35 in a couple of weeks. My time is nearly done now. I'm not sure I'll finish off.
The big thing with it is, Colin, right? I retired myself this year from the hurling, right? And anyone that's listening to this will understand what I mean. You get older, and for me, the power has gone out of my body, and it's a hard thing to explain. You're taking on lads, and you're horsing into tackles, and you're able to break the tackle, and just. For me personally, the power has gone out of my body, and I say it's the same thing. And every little belt and every little injury takes longer to heal and takes longer to recover. So it comes to a stage where you just get sick of it.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly what Michael Finley is saying.
But that's it. But Michael Finley, he came back from a 7-month injury to come back this year, which was an incredible thing considering the injury problems he's had. He says the enjoyment is kind of going out of it, to be honest. Is a bit of a drain going training when your body is suffering each and every time. Now, this is in the last 2 years when they've won 2 All-Ireland clubs. So, I'd say Michael Finley, if he's not enjoying this or it feels like a drain considering the 2 years he's had, well, I'd imagine that could be the end of Michael Fenley, even though he was very good yesterday. I know Jerry Kelly got a lot of scores, but they were phenomenal scores Jerry Kelly got. We'll talk about that in a while. But Michael Fenley, again, as usual, did the simple things right. They dominated the half-back line in the air, and he just used the ball lovely with a few little short passes whenever he needs to. Yeah, well, Michael Finley, I think, was one of the biggest losses to Brian Cody's setup when he retired and he finished up. And I really mean that. Michael Finley has always been a brilliant player, so he has. But yeah, as you said, very cool on the ball, doesn't get excited, very relaxed, showed huge leadership there, especially in the half-back line, especially in the second half, near the last 15 minutes when it was required. And look at, he's managing Offaly, which is a huge benefit to him as well. That he'll bring huge enthusiasm there, but he's just a super player, another great player. He's up there with the likes of Henry as well. So he's up there with the greats. There's no doubt about that. We'll definitely try and get Michael Fenley on the show during the course of the league to see how he's getting on in Offaly. There was a nice moment in the dressing room after the game where the players took pictures with Eugene Aylward, the teammate of theirs that died You know, I think Owen Doyle, another teammate that died. A lot of the talk was about all the community members that Borrisoleigh had lost, but Ballyhale have had tragedies as well. And what they did with Owen Doyle last year is that they had his jersey in the dressing room and took pictures with it. And this year they've done the same with Eugene. So that's a very nice touch. He obviously was number 19, was the jersey he wore, so that was in the dressing room after the game. And Henry was talking after the game. He says a lovely touch from the GAA. Now I'm not sure what GAA he's talking about. People say the GAA. Do they mean the county board? Do they mean the Leinster Council? Or do they mean up in Croke Park? But they gave to the Doyle family and the Aylward family and the Cullen family. They gave they were offered tickets and a corporate box, so they're all up watching the game together. So that was a really nice thing to read.
Yeah, well, that is nice. You know, being honest, like to see even the lads taking photographs and even putting these jersey. I like to hear them stories, you know, because you never like to hear anyone being forgotten, you know. And like we had it in our own club as well. My own brother died, Keith George Murphy, you know, and he's like, he mightn't be there, but he'll never be forgotten, you know. And it's the same way with them players, you know. And they, you know, you have to remember, club is all about family. And like there was a lot of them players playing yesterday, and them lads were their friends, like, you know. And you don't want to forget that either, you know. And often occasion like that, Colin, you know, it's a great moment to win a Club All Ireland, but it can often be a very sad occasion, you know, for some. Yeah. So it is, but I didn't know that happened. Right, and that's actually lovely to hear, and it's lovely to say that did happen. And fair play to everyone involved. That's all. I take my hands off and say well done to everyone who was involved in doing that. And that's a lovely touch, and fair play to everyone.
Yeah, that's interesting that it can be a sad day as well, and maybe all the emotions of who's not there come back to you. I didn't win one, so I was close enough at one stage, but you've won them.
It happened. Like it happened with us, you know. Keith was my brother, you know, and he was he was the closest age to me, and like we did everything together. So all of a sudden, you're going up with your whole family wanting to win an All Ireland, and it's no different to the Ballyhale lads, or even if it was any different to, say, for the Borrisoleigh lads, you know. And next thing, all of a sudden, you win, and memories go back, you know, to geez, if Keith was there, or what would he been like, or where had he been playing. Next thing, you get the family photographs with you with the cup, and there's one missing, you know. So, you know, as I said, Colin, it can often be a great day, and, you know, great memories and all that, but, you know, it just can be a sad occasion for a few moments for certain family members. So I always think of them as well. But just on what you're telling me about the photographs and the Ballyhale players, they didn't forget them, and that's so important, and fair play to them. You know, I love that, and that's all about friendship and memories.
Yeah, and you're right, club is family, and maybe the thing is highlighted with club, you know, and community and things like that, and All Ireland and Club Day. Quick one there, Damien. I know you're a traditionalist like myself. I didn't watch those games yesterday and think of St. Patrick's Day at all. I just watched them and enjoyed 2 All Ireland Club finals. Did it lose anything for you that wasn't on St. Patrick's Day?
I wouldn't say it lost anything, but it was extremely weird. You know, Club All Ireland final on in basically the middle of January. It was different, but no, geez, I thought even the football game, it was an intriguing game. You know, it was very strange, low score and all. But the hurling, it was a great game of hurling, to be fair. You know, and a lot of people thought that it would be a one-way, you know, with Ballyhale, you know, would beat Borrisoleigh, but I knew with Johnny Kelly being over the Borrisoleigh lads, and he's a Portumna man, he'd have the lads well tuned in, you know. And I actually thought it was a great game of hurling. You know, at the very end of the game, Borrisoleigh could have got a goal, so they could have, where they threw a hand pass and it was just a little bit too long, and they had an opportunity for a goal with maybe about 2 minutes to go. I tell you, I thought it was a great game of hurling, and I thought there were 2 great semi-finals. So I had no issue with the Club of Ireland. It was a little bit weird, that's all. But it was two great games.
Come here, what about Johnny Kelly? He seems to be a shrewd enough sort of operator.
Yeah, Johnny's been involved in hurling all his life, so he has, and like he trained us and managed us, so he did with Portumna, you know, and he's been around the block for a long time, so he has. And I was at the county final, so I was at the North final as well. Like Tipperary's only over the road, you know, and they got beaten in the North final by Killadangan, you know. And next thing, it was like they had a meeting or something, you know, and basically there was stuff said, and they came out, so they in the quarter final, semi final, and beat Nina and them all, and got to the county final and won it. Johnny likes to play a sweeper, so he does. He's a bit like Davy. He likes to play a sweeper, and you know, it's alright playing a sweeper, but you have to know how to play that system, and his teams are able to play that system, and they played very intelligent, and he turned out that Forest Lee team unbelievably well. And they weren't that far away from winning it. Some people thought they'd get hammered, like.
Yeah, no, they deserve a lot of credit. We'll talk about the game in a minute, because they could have gone away. It was 16-10 at one stage, and you thought they were gone. If a goal for Ballyhale, and it could have been embarrassing, but they showed a lot. They showed a lot of heart. One or two more quick ones.
Johnny went for the Galway job as well. Maybe just before me had through time, he got an interview. And you don't get an interview without having the credits behind your name, for the job. So he did a great job. Well done, Johnny. Yeah,
he's in with Michael Fennelly obviously now in Offaly, so that'll be interesting to see how that works out. They look like they have a fantastic young team. There, Offaly do. Come here, Owen Cody tweeted this morning about Owen Reid, and I didn't realise what a decorated player Owen Reid is. So he's 5 All-Ireland club medals. He has more All-Ireland club medals than any other club in the country. How many do you have? Portumna have 4, don't they? And Burr have 4.
Yeah, we have 4.
So Owen Reid on his own have 5. He's 16 All-Irelands in total. He's 3 Fitzgibbon Cups. He has 4 All-Irelands with Kilkenny. He has 5 Club All-Irelands. He has 1 Minor All-Ireland with Kilkenny. He has 1 Colleges with the school. He has 1 Under-21 All-Ireland, and he has a Féile All-Ireland. 16 All-Ireland titles. And that's a man that wouldn't be. He's not. His name isn't thrown around nationally with a medal hall like that. Of having a medal hall like that.
The biggest problem I say for him is that his brother is TJ. So when they start talking about the Reeds, they just automatically talk about TJ.
Yeah, but he could shut TJ up over the dinner now with that kind of a medal hall. I'd say TJ would want to watch his mouth.
Exactly. Tell him to put down his mouth and smoke it. But I know, and I could be wrong now, and don't hope, but he was playing wing back yesterday, as in. I think that was a new role for him again, because he usually used to play up in the forward. I think he played corner forward.
No, that's Richie. Owen was corner forward. Richie's the wing back.
Oh, apologies. Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, but Asher, it's unbelievable haul of medals. And at the end of the day, when you finish up your career, it's nice to say that you're involved in all these teams. And as I said, it's a good one now for TJ.
It definitely is. I want to give a mention to this intermediate final, because this was on YouTube on Saturday, and this is one of the most unbelievable games that you'll ever see. So Father O'Neill's went to 1-4 to a point up early in the game. Then Tullerone replied with 1-4 of their own to no score, and they took the lead at 2-5 to 1-6 at half time. Then Father O'Neill's came out, scored 2 goals in a minute, and they went into a 4-8 to 2-9 lead. Then Tullerone came back and with an 11-point swing to go 5 up. Then Father O'Neill's came back and drew it level. And then Shane O'Neill, fairy tale stuff, the Tullerone captain, came up with the winning score to win it for Tullerone. So I don't know if you can keep up with all that, but it's completely breathless stuff altogether in Croke Park. And Shane Walsh, incidentally, we had Pádraig Walsh on the show here recently, and he said that his brother Shane canvassed to be captain earlier, or during the winter, and he wanted to be captain, and he ended up being captain, and he made a fairly colourful speech after the game. So I was thinking, Damien, that you have a lot in common with Shane Walsh. So you're both corner forwards, you're both All-Ireland club winners, you both sell cars, you're both very good talkers, and you both like to plug the garage that you work for at every opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. But see, I don't think I plugged it as much as he plugged his garage, where I've often mentioned Al Hayes Moores, and we'll give the alhayesmoores.com and I'll mention there as well. But Colin, I thought his speech was hilarious to an extent, and it was nearly a case of he didn't know when to stop thanking people. But on the manager, or on the captaincy, he told a story. I watched it there on Instagram, that he basically told the boys that he was living with a few of the boys in the house, and he told the boys messenger he was going wanting captain, and he was going to do captain this year. And next thing, all of a sudden, the boys said he was canvassing, and he ended up getting it. And he was trying to explain this, so he was after the match in one of his post-match speeches. But stop! He was thanking lads for holidays and not having to put his hands in his pocket to buy a few drinks in 2 weeks' time. But it was just hilarious. But I just want to say as well, Colin, well done to TG Carr as well on their coverage of the whole thing. It was absolutely brilliant, and the match itself, the match was hugely entertaining. It was absolutely brilliant. So it was real challenge match stuff, and you're talking about sometimes attacking soccer. it was just endless, and there was score after score after score. So it was a great game of hurling.
Yeah, it's very rare a game kind of ebbs and flows by that much. Both teams going ahead, being pegged back, going ahead, being pegged back. But I would say the main sponsor for Tullaroan won't be too happy with Shane Walsh. He could be getting a phone call off them because his boss was the very first one mentioned.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's the truth. Like, you get mentioned to other people, and I suppose it's like anything, with a club sponsor. It's the club sponsor that's sponsoring the club, so he's pumping money into the club, and his name is on the jersey, and you'd be hoping that he'd be getting the recognition, or maybe the only recognition on the day. And I can understand that because our garage ad has more sponsors for some of it, so I understand if someone had an issue with it. But his speech was hilarious. But hopefully the main club sponsor wouldn't mind the other businesses being mentioned in it. So I'd
say Shane will get a pass because he's such a great character, and you could tell that he made the speeches. To be honest, his speech was fairly boring. It's what he made of it. He thanked as many people as Stephen Cluxton thanks. It's just he put his own twist on everybody that he thanked, which was fantastic.
He comes across as a real character.
He does. He definitely does. I wouldn't mind going for a pint with all the Walshes, if I'm being honest, down in Tullaroan someday if I'm ever.
I'd say that could happen.
It could be easily organised. All right, come here. We want to talk about this main game here because we mentioned that Borrisoleigh fought to the very end. They could have gone away and they didn't. And with 58 minutes gone, there was only 2 points in it.
Well, this is it. They fought till the very end. They didn't give in. Real turning point, Colin, was Ballyhale got 3 to 4 points at the very end of the first half, and they were telling scores. They ended up being big scores for them. But I was really impressed with Borrisoleigh. They absolutely gave it everything. Brendan Maher leading from example at the back, 6 points, 4 frees and 2 from play. And then you have to give a mention. Just, it's not every day a player goes out in Croke Park on Club All-Ireland Day and he ends up scoring 7 points. So he does, 6 from play and 1 sideline, and that was Jerry Kelly. He was just absolutely brilliant, and I was even saying it to a guy here in the showroom today, like if that was Joe Cannon or if that was Patrick Horgan or Shamie Cannon or TJ Reid, they'd get a 2-page spread, about that performance. Like, that was unbelievable, and it was the skill level that he had is unbelievable. Even though the unbelievable score in the second half we got, and he shimmied and spun and drove us straight over the bar. He's a great player, Sis.
No,
he's absolutely brilliant.
He is. He's a leader. Look, I'm signed up to the Jerry Kelly fan club. I've said this throughout the Munster Championship, and not for the reasons he showed yesterday, for the class. Just because he's a wholehearted player, he puts his body on the line. He throws himself about, and I didn't realise that he could do what he did yesterday. I didn't realise he was as brilliant, I suppose, as some of the scores he got. And with the array of scores, some of them were caught a puck out, and without even looking, it's over the bar. It's a sideline ball over the bar. Another one then is from an impossible angle in front of the Cusick, in front of the canal end. And then another one is like the one you were mentioning, where he kind of dummy soloed it and brought it back into his hand and stuck it over into the hill. And that was at the pressure end of the game. It was just an all-round unbelievable performance, and he didn't deserve to be on the losing team.
No, and as I said to you, it's great. Often Croke Park can just pass you by, especially on Club All-Ireland final day, Colin, because there isn't as much of a crowd there as we'll say on the big All-Ireland final day. But he took it from the scruff of the neck. Like he had 3 points over the bar within, I'd say, the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's always lovely to see a player, that wouldn't be a household name, really showing his array of skills. And like he sidelined the ball over the bar as well, which was unbelievable. So was there yesterday from a tight angle and went straight over the bar. So you'd be delighted just for him. He got to showcase his skills in Croke Park. It was just disappointing maybe that they didn't win it after putting in a performance like that, but it was some performance, and a performance that he'll be able to treasure forever. So he is. A
small little turning point there was just before half time as well. I don't want to be hard on James Devaney. He looks like he's going to be a brilliant player. He's got a phenomenal speed, but he went for a goal from 21 yards out and blazed it wide, and from the puck out then TJ got a point. Do you know what I mean? So that was a bit of a swing.
It was. He got the ball. He got a hand pass, and I think he was, from just watching on TV, it looked like he was actually going to go for a point. And next thing he realised he had a bit of room, right? And next thing he decided he'd go for it.
Would you blame him for going for that?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, when you get an opportunity up there, I wouldn't blame him. He's only a young lad as well, and it was a big occasion for him. And he is an upcoming talent with great pace and all that. But he went for it, so you wouldn't give out to anyone for going for it. But what I reckon he was trying to do is he was trying to put it in the top right-hand corner of the net, and it kind of sliced off his hurl and went wide, and then the resulting puck out landed straight down to TJ, and he drove over the bar. So it could have been a point up one end, and instead it was a 4-point turnaround down the far end. So look, when you're fighting against the odds, Colin, when you're playing a team like Ballyhale, you need all them scores to go over.
Yeah.
You just need them, and as I said, it was a 4-point turnaround at the end of the game in the first half, and I think Ballyhale went in 4 points up at half time, and that was a huge moment in the game.
And they were wasteful enough, I thought, Borrisoleigh in the second half. They were hitting a lot of aimless ball to a full forward line that wasn't even there, and even Brendan Maher had gone into the forwards. I think he moved up forward, but he was up there a lot anyways, and he hit a few into the goalie's hands, and it seemed like they'd kind of lost it completely until the late rally. Then Brendan Maher ended up getting a couple of unbelievable scores, and Jerry Kelly as well, and then suddenly they're back in it. But Borrisoleigh will probably look at that game and say that we didn't play that well in it.
No, they didn't. It's not that they didn't play well. They gave it everything, but what happened was, Colin, they were under so much pressure and they were trying to get into the game. The full forward line had come out, so they had, and next thing when the ball went in, there was no one in there.
Yeah.
Which, and that's what was happening. But like, it took a great score from TJ really to kind of push them over the line, and also he won a mighty free at the very end of the match.
Yeah.
Borrisoleigh had them rattled now, and that is the best way to describe it, had them rattled, and it was just a pity that they couldn't have just got a couple of more scores. Like, they missed a couple of scores well early in the match as well, Borrisoleigh, and all of them added up to this. But they had them rattled. I'm telling you, Borrisoleigh gave it everything, and fair play to them, they gave it, but Ballyhale came out on top, and they probably did deserve it. But I tell you one thing, Borrisoleigh can be very proud of their performance and very proud of their whole All-Ireland campaign, so they can.
They definitely can. I thought their half-forward line, Kieran Maher, who was so good the last day, and the two Kennys, they didn't play well, and they couldn't win their own puck-outs, and they ended up having to abandon pucking it out long because the Ballyhale half-back line were so dominant. And then was it Kieran Maher or Kevin Maher they brought out around the midfield, and he started looking for short puck-outs because they were being destroyed on their own puck-out.
Yeah, they were. They didn't win what we call the half-back line, half-forward line exchanges. And the Kinneys, they had big games now. And that's where they went to, their go-to ball against St. Thomas in the semi-final. And they didn't win the half-back line challenges. So basically it was game plan B. I'd say Johnny had a different thing where he'd maybe go short and see how they'd work the ball up. But the big thing as well, Colin, when you're not able to win your own half-forward line ball, especially in Croke Park, with a club team, it can get very difficult. And that's why I would say, when they weren't able to do that, the full forward line was coming out for Borrisoleigh, and then there was no one inside. But then they had the late rally, and as I said, they could have got a goal at the very, very end, with about maybe 2 minutes to go, where they just overcooked the hand pass. And if they got that into the hand and they scored a goal, you wouldn't know what could have happened. And they were there and thereabouts up to the end. It was as good as club final that had been played in many years up in Croke Park, and it was tight and it was close and it was exciting.
Yeah, because in a lot of the time the hurling finals are damn squibs altogether, other than the Piercing and Coola, which was two brilliant finals 2 years ago. Usually one team, I don't know why, wins it fairly well.
Yeah, like Ballyhale won the Club of Ireland last year against St. Thomas's, and they won it handy, where this year it was a completely different, and it can happen, it does happen, so it does. Where the football is often the opposite, it can be very close. But I don't know why. It just can happen that way. Colin, sometimes maybe it's stage fright for some club players.
Yeah,
or whatever,
could be that.
Yeah, but thankfully this year's Club All Ireland, I thought it was a really good game, being honest.
No, I thought it was. It definitely was. There's some brilliant scores. I think because some of the Borrisoleigh forwards didn't play up to the level they usually did, they were very, very dependent on Brendan Maher and Jerry Kelly, for scores. Not enough of the Borrisoleigh. In fact, only 4 of their players scored. So it's not enough.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not enough of a spread. Whereas Ballyhale, they can hurt you from anywhere. They're not far off a county team, if we're being honest. When you look at Owen Cody in the corner, Colin Fennelly full forward, Owen Reid with all his medals in the corner, then TJ, Brian Cody and Adrian Mullen. There's just such a spread of. And then obviously in the first half, Patrick Mullen completely kept them in the game when it looked like Borrisoleigh had started brilliantly.
And just on that, Patrick Mullen, he got 2 points. So he did, with the weirdest strike over his shoulder.
Yeah, not even looking.
not even looking with his back turned to the goal. And there were two unbelievable scores. And I often say, like, if it was TJ that scored that and he's a left hand on top, you'd be ranting and raving about it. And geez, his back was turned to the goal.
Yeah.
It was just, like, you know, and he's the spit of the brother as well, so he is, you know. But all them Ballyhale lads, they've all played college as well, and they've all played underage for county. So yeah, you could tell there's a bit of a class now to a lot of their players, the Ballyhale boys, you know. So, you know, there is hurlers still in Kilkenny. Like, there was talk 2 or 3 years ago that Kilkenny had no maybe hurlers to pick from regarding the county. But geez, there's still lots of them out there in the club scene for Kilkenny.
Yeah, no, there definitely is. Should Brendan Maher or Dan McCormick have been sent off in the first half? I think Dan McCormick should have been sent off. Brendan Maher, it's open to interpretation. He was fairly high with the shoulder.
I wouldn't have sent him off, innit? Just being honest, you're asking me. I thought Brendan Maher's shoulder was fair. I don't like to see any lads getting sent off. No. So, if you're asking me a question, I wouldn't have sent either of them off.
Well, okay, Brendan Maher, a mistimed shoulder, you'd say fair enough. There'd be an argument about that. I'd be on the same lines as you, that would be okay on a yellow card. But Dan McCormick grabbed the helmet, and not only was he pulling the helmet off Adrian Mullen, he broke his hurl off his legs.
Okay, well, the whole argument there is, Colin, right? I'm glad you mentioned the whole helmet thing, right? Okay, I'll answer it this way. If you're not allowed to touch someone else's helmet, you know, it's meant to be a rule in the book, right? That if you touch an opposition's helmet, it's meant to be a direct, straight red card, right? So if that is the rule, yeah, Dan McCormick should have got sent off because he did pull it, right? But all the other referees are going to have to, because there is other lads messing with helmets too when to be going through the ball, or especially under a high ball, they're hitting helmets and all that. But I wouldn't have sent him off. I'm just going to push the whole helmet thing. It's either a sending off or it's not, and the referees just need to sort it. But I wouldn't have sent either of the two players off. You know, even though I would say this about McCormick, that challenge, I thought it was a stupid challenge. I thought he could have defended it a little bit better just on that particular piece of play. But the Brendan Maher one, I thought Brendan Maher hit the man a fairly good shoulder. You know, as the man says, met him straight on shoulder to shoulder. I didn't think there was much malice in it. I think maybe it was a bit frontal.
It was a little bit frontal.
Yeah, he was a little bit lighter as well. He hit the deck a little bit easy. So I wouldn't have sent any of them off, Colin. We might disagree on this one, but I wouldn't have sent any of them off.
What? This obviously, you've played hurling so long. Explain to me, for a man who's never played hurling, to have a hurl broken off your leg. How, like, I would just imagine somebody came up to me and broke a hurl off my leg. Well, I might need a year's recuperation after that.
It depends on how good the ash is. If it's imported ash or if it's the homegrown ash, so it's ash. I've often got a hurl broken off me. Sometimes in the break column, they break up around the middle of the hurl, which means it's not
right.
It wouldn't be that sore, you know, but it would leave a mark on your leg, and it would you know, it would bruise, or you'd have that bit of the blood stain mark on it or whatever. But you just get on with it like this, you know. It's a part of the game. You know, it's a man's game, but mostly if you did get it, the hurl would break in the middle. Right.
So it looks worse than it is. The higher up say if you get the middle of the hurl on the leg, it'll warp and break, but it's not as sore as it might sound.
Exactly. Like you take, for example, I remember years ago, Brian Quinn from Clare. There's a great photograph of himself and Eugene Cloonan where he tackles Eugene Cloonan and the hurl is broke across Eugene Cloonan's forehead, but it's in the middle of the hurl again. Right. And then there's another one, if you can remember, lads might remember Pádraig Maher coming out to challenge, I don't know, was it against Limerick or Cork one year, and he challenged your man and he broke the middle of the hurl again across your man's helmet, kind of, you know. So it's the weakest part of the hurl, where some people like to have a spring. So it's the weakest part of the hurl. So every time you bend the hurl, it weakens the middle of it, so it breaks. So sometimes it looks way worse than it is.
Well, here's another question now that we're on to hurls, and these are the conversations I like to have with you. Why you don't see lads doing it as much anymore? You know, where I don't know, years ago you'd always see lads testing out the hurl where they'd hold it at one end and then they'd push down the middle of it, like they're not trying to snap it. Why don't lads do that anymore? Why don't you see lads doing that anymore, or do they, or do I just not notice it?
No. The reason for that is when you do that, you're weakening the hurl. And some lads like a spring, where now there's no really need for a spring because there's no, everything has moved on. There's no scientific reason why you should have a spring and not a spring. So if you're going doing a line ball, when you do that with your hurl, you're weakening the middle of it, column.
Right.
So I remember I say one of the views that you have in your head is like the Pete Finnerty years ago when he used to take line balls, he'd bin the hurl twice and then he'd go, or Jerry McInerney, but no, you just don't do it because you're weakening your hurl, and you could have a lovely hurl, you could have to score a couple of points with it or whatever, you know, and it could be your favourite hurl, but you just won't because you're weakening it. That's the best way.
What did they think they were doing? Like, what was the myth back then that used to give you a bit of bend to get under the ball or something, or
something like that? I honestly don't know. I say that's exactly it, to give him a bend to get under it, but I don't think there was any advantages. I put it this way, I didn't see Jerry Kelly been in the hurl yesterday when he was sidelining his ball over the bar.
No,
so he didn't. But that's the whole logic behind it. But no, you don't see anyone bending it because you're weakening it.
Yeah.
You just picture it. It's like you have a sweep brush. You have a sweeping brush and you're trying to bend the middle of it. Like, it could snap on you. And how many times has it happened over the years? You'd see lads doing it and the hurl would snap, and next thing you go look for a replacement to take a line ball. So that's the reason for it, Colin. There's no reason to bend the hurl.
No,
because it doesn't do anything for you.
All right, okay. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up because that's something that was on my mind, Damien. Come here, performance of the weekend before we go on. I think we've covered most of this. TJ Reid, obviously. Go on.
There's only one. There's only one performance of the week, and give him hats off to him and give him his day in the sun, and that's Jerry Kelly.
Yeah.
And that's for me. That give him his day. Every person needs their day in the sun, and it's, as I said, what he did yesterday for a club like Borrisoleigh, he scored 7 points in a club All Ireland, and he wasn't the free taker.
Yeah, 6 from play on the sideline. The sideline was phenomenal, and that's not the only time he scored sidelines. He scored sidelines right throughout the Munster Championship as well. He's well able to do that. Like, I mean, it was the dummy. I don't know why we don't see more hurlers doing dummy solos like that. TJ Reid does it at times. You know, where you throw the ball up and it's you call it a dummy solo in Gaelic football. Yeah. I don't know if you've got a name on it even in hurling, but when you see it working so well, you wonder why you don't see it more often.
Yeah, you show him the dummy. So
yeah.
Basically, the pass came across. He caught it with the hand. He threw it up, pretending he was going to hit it. He controlled it and pulled it back into his body real quick. He done the swivel, right, and he favoured his right hand side, swiveled back onto his right on the spin, and drove it straight over the bar. And the big thing with that whole movement was he drove the ball. It was like an arrow going straight over the bar. It didn't lob or anything like that. And he as we just said, his array of scores were brilliant. And as I said, you know, it's nice that we're talking about the likes of Jerry Kelly there today instead of the TJ Reeds or the Michael Finleys or the Colin Finleys or the Brendan Mahers or all these, we call them county household names, you know. And he showed his skills, and he showed that he actually carried Borrisoleigh there for a long period of that game and kept them in the game. And as I said, if maybe they got 1 or 2 chances where they got opportunities for goals and took them, you would never know what happened. But it was an outstanding performance to him yesterday, and all I can say is well done and congratulations.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. So he was the one I was going to pick. There's no doubt about that. That was just Riot or over stuff. Other nominations were Shane Walsh, Tullerone. He got 5 from play, 4 frees and a 65.
Which is brilliant scoring again.
And that was the winning score, and he set up a few goals as well, Shane Walsh. So it was a brilliant performance, and he's been scoring heavily. I'll be interested to see whether he's county level. It looks to me to be a bit of a character, whether Brian Cody likes characters like that or not. Although Tommy Walsh is a character too. I think all the Walshes are, and it's not like they didn't play for Kilkenny. So maybe Shane will push on from captaining his club to an intermediate title, and maybe be called in to the Kilkenny squad. Or
Tommy Walsh is a character, but it also helps that he was a very good hurler.
Oh yeah, well the greatest. You've marked Tommy plenty of times, right?
Yeah, Tommy broke a hurl. If you look it up on YouTube, you see Tommy. Just as something that you might on about, breaking the hurl in the middle. I remember Tommy breaking a hurl. So he did off Andrew Smith in the Leinster final one time.
Oh, he was marking him as right, yeah. Did Smith bring him into Smith brought him into the full back line, did he? Was that in an All-Ireland final, or I remember Tommy Walsh playing?
Andy was wing forward and he was wing back.
Right.
So he was, and just the ball came and he broke the he broke the hurl across him. So we won a free NS.
Because I'm just thinking back to the All-Ireland final in 2012. Isn't that when ye drew with Kilkenny? Was that 12?
Yeah.
That 2012?
Yeah.
Whoever ye had on Tommy Walsh that day brought him from wing back and brought him into the cornerback. Because I was looking at the match, I was at the match thinking, geez, would you not think Brian Cody'd switch Tommy back out to wing back? He's stuck back in the corner. Do you remember that? No.
Yeah, I don't know who was he marking. I don't know who he was marking. He was marking Cyril Donlan.
Cyril Donlan, I think it was. Yeah. Brought him in around there.
Me and Cyril used to play in the same side of the field, and I used to play corner forward, and I used to be kind of going in and out. So that's probably what happened. He was probably told to man mark Cyril, and so Cyril probably went in. So he was just probably went in for a few minutes, and then he was back out or whatever.
Right. No,
that's what happens.
Okay. So yeah, Shane Walsh set up a few goals. Well, Martin Keown scored 2-1. He's obviously a county player already for Tullaroan. But that's it. Performance of the weekend has to be Jerry Kelly. Absolutely brilliant performance from a very likeable player. And that's it. That's all we have time for, and that's all our club coverage done for the year until the county finish up. We're going to be back on Thursday. We're going to split out the hurling and the football shows again, and we'll start on Thursday with a league preview. So we'll talk to you then. Good luck.